we are basically in the hole because not only are those project costs, but we also had a loan payment. Remember, it's a principal and interest payment that was made in September of $158,000. We'll have another interest payment in February, but the principal and interest are in September. So we're really in the hole on the sewer. We're not collecting enough revenues to cover our projects. That's why we needed the loan to jumpstart this program, and that's why it's critical to keep these R&R funds coming in on the sewer side.
The interest rate on the loan?
2 all-in cost was, I think, 2.4, 2.48. 2%. We got a very good loan at that particular point in time, and it's a 7-year loan.
Excellent.
Jeff, I just wanted to echo one thing about the potential liabilities of not dealing with, you know, the improvements or just caring for the assets that are in the ground on the wastewater side. That was one of the things that struck me the most in first impressions being here just a short amount of time, was seeing the wastewater facilities in the Copper area and the proximity to a drinking water source in Lake Tulloch, and the fact that, I mean, there is no margin for error with that. I mean, the thought that you could have, you know, a catastrophic failure and have, you know, people in hazmat suits working on the lake. I mean, it just, you know, you know, just, it strikes me as how, and I know, you know, people see this on paper and it doesn't resonate as much, but it really does when you get out there and see that and you realize this is something that just can't be ignored. We got to care for it.
At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Joel and update you on our water conservation efforts and responding to the state mandated conservation requirements.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam President and members of the board. Welcome new members. I look forward to working with all of you and continuing to work with Director Ratterman and Davidson. Just quickly, I wanted to give you an update on where we stand. The state has mandated that we cut back significantly on the amount of water, and as a community, we have come together and done that in compliance with the state mandate. After curtailment, we did a significant amount of outreach, and me and my team really worked hard to get the message out that we needed to stick with some mandatory conservation methods, and that's called Stage 3 mandatory water conservation. So if you look at the green line on this graph, it corresponds to the right side, and you can see the percentages of savings that we've been able to achieve. And then the red and blue is in reference to 2013 versus 2014, and the gray bar below the red and the blue shows how much the community has been able to conserve on a month-to-month basis. Overall, year to date, we're at almost 19% down this year versus last year. And that's a huge accomplishment. The community and our customers have come together to comply with these state orders. And we're still under these orders. So as we get into the winter months, I expect to see the amount saved be a little bit less because we use so much less water. There are fewer opportunities to conserve outdoors, which is one of the easiest ways for people to make changes and make a big impact. But I will continue monitoring this, and I will continue updating the board on where we are. One thing to note is if you look at June, early June is when we implemented Stage 3. You can see a big drop in that green line. And then we stayed down at 20% or plus conservation this year compared to last year until October, and you see a pretty big spike there. So we went from 20% up to 12% there. And basically that was just some of our biggest systems, Ebbets Pass and Copperopolis and Jennyland, just not having the conservation that they had in previous months. However, if you notice in November, which is the latest data that I have, we're back down to 20+% conservation. So I can't necessarily explain exactly what happened in October, but I'm kind of researching that to see why we went from 12% and then back up to 20. I'll have December's numbers in early January, and then I'll update this graph. I do report these numbers to the state on the 15th of each month. That's when the due date is for this report. And so I hope that this is clear to you so you can see where we are, and I definitely will keep you updated on that.
I have a question.
Yes.
I believe it was at our last meeting, Larry was talking about the state saying, yes, we have a drought, no, we don't have a drought. What's the status with that?
You still have a drought.
Yeah, I think what you might be referring to, I'm not sure if this is it, but we definitely are still very much in a drought and we have not recovered. However, the curtailment is temporarily suspended so we can store water during big storm periods, and then they will reinstate that and we're not allowed to store water. Is that what you are remembering?
Yeah, that was,
So are we storing water now?
Yes.
When did we start?
Oh, it was a week or two ago when the state gave another notice to temporarily lift the curtailment.
We don't know how long.
Go ahead.
This was stored at White Mill Ponds and also Bear Creek. That's what was stored.
What about Hogan and
Hogan is-
Maloney's?
Not our right, but they're storing.
They are?
Yeah, that's Bureau right.
The direction we got from the state, it seemed like early in the year, early in the rain, when the rains first started, where they allowed you to store, and then they could see the end of the storm and said, okay, no more.
Yeah.
With these storms that we have coming in now, they obviously allowed us to store. Do you anticipate them going through the winter, or are they going to continue this decision on a storm-by-storm basis?
Well, they talked about having a storm-by-storm basis, but I anticipate as long as they forecast storms in the long term, they're going to keep it suspended instead of flipping it on and off as they were doing at the beginning of the season.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
only two places are Mill Pond, which is basically full of material from up, and we can't store probably maybe 5 plus feet. And the other place is the Bear Creek on the regulator station. That's the only two places that we put the boards back in. Those are the only two places that we're actually curtailing water on. And all the other stuff is wide open. So that we just get notified to put the boards back in up at Mill Pond, which we did. And we also got permission to divert the Bear Creek because there was enough water between fishing and what's over here. That was the only two areas. Hogan has nothing to do with the curtailment. It's at 46,000 acre feet. Even after last storm, as bad as it was, we only got 5,000 acre feet of water without anything.
And Madam President, I think that's a really good point to recognize. So we still have the governor's declaration of emergency, which is in effect, and of course that's driven the actions by the State Water Board, including our requirement to file our conservation numbers, and then a continuing requirement of at least 20% conservation, or call for that. But one of the things that, if you look at last year to this year, like with Hogan, the storage coming into this water year was less than half of what we saw last year. So we're actually in a worse position across the state because we lost so much of our stored water because of drought conditions that it makes it even more important that we that we do all the things that we have to do to provide a reliable supply. Yeah.
I mean, we're not storing it in containers in our water shed? That's a joke, folks. You're going to laugh.
And someday we probably will.
Sell you barrels. You're not far off, though.
okay.
The second thing I wanted to update conservation rebate program and the supplies. So I think many of you were at the meeting, but what my team decided to do was, instead of ordering a kit that had everything in it, we ordered individual bulk supplies so we could customize what each customer could use most and not give them things that they would throw away or sit on the shelf. So we have a soil moisture sensor on the right there. We have a shower timer, the red. We have faucet aerators, leak detection dye tablets. We have a low flow shower head, and we have a automatic hose timer that you can start watering a tree and it will automatically turn that hose off. Many people still water with hoses out there. In addition to these things, which will be given out at no cost to CCWD customers who request them, we also have a rebate program anywhere from $50 to $75 on things like smart irrigation controllers, irrigation efficiency upgrades, high efficiency clothes washers, and low flow toilets. And so I'm proud that my team has worked hard to put this together, and now we can start publicizing this and make sure that people start taking advantage of this. I know during the winter there may be a little bit less interest, but I hope that we can get some of these things implemented so by next summer people are using them regularly. And I hope to work with the board and Dave to make sure that we get this news out to the public that these things are available. There's an example of these on the table out front. I encourage you guys to become familiar with them and spread the word on that.
How else are we spreading the word that these are available to our customers for free?
So right now, we have information on our website and Facebook, other social media outlets, and I'm encouraging any phone conversation, these should be mentioned when customers call in. My plan, now that these have arrived and they arrived 2 days ago, is to do a press release, and I'll work with Dave on seeing if that's the direction he wants to go with that. But I think we could use some photos of these and do a nice little write-up that would be carried by websites, radio, possibly TV, and newspapers.
And maybe put them on our website?
Absolutely.
And Director Ratterman, I think, there's growing awareness that, being able to provide tools for demand reduction is critical, is part of the equation on water supply reliability wherever you are in the state. And so we're actually seeing a lot more money come in through grants now. The last round of drought funding that was an emergency, under the governor's emergency declaration, to push money out for drought response projects. One of the things that we saw, and we were successful in El Dorado getting, were funds for exactly this kind of thing. So, I think one of the things that Joel and I have talked about initially, and obviously we've only have so much capacity, but there may be a real opportunity for us to leverage what other funds are available, either through reclamation or through the state, and really getting more tools to our customer. And the nice thing, it really does, it empowers your customer to have ways that they can deal with their water use. Helps them save money, helps us meet our reliability and our objectives and requirements by the state.
So I'm excited about this program. I'm excited to continue expanding it, and the current funding is a little over $12,000 now that we've made this expenditure, and so we have more opportunities to do other things, and I'll keep this conversation going with you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Madam Chair.
A question?
If you have any questions?
I have a
Yeah.
quick question for him.
Oh, certainly.
Is there any possibility that we can appreciate what good work you do, to see how the other counties doing in the state? On this program about
Because he gets that
saving
report.
water?
He gets the state
How
report.
Calaveras County compared to other counties in the state? So we can really fully appreciate the great work you do.
So in answer to Mr. Ray's question, I don't have the numbers on a PowerPoint for you, but as I've surveyed other counties, we are one of the highest, the most conservation that I've seen in the area. As a state as a whole, I don't think that we've even cracked 10% yet. So in comparison to the regional areas, we're doing very well. 20% is a huge accomplishment.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Charles, did you have anything else?
I was just going to mention one thing, that it'd really be nice, right next to the billboard, so to speak, or sandwich boards that we have out talking about the emergency water conservation and all, to somehow also talk about exactly what you just spoke about, or little, contact CCWD for your water conservation devices or something.
Great idea.
Charles?
I like it.
Thank you, board members. Merry Christmas to you. It is the Christmas season. I don't really have a lot to report on today. Bill and I have been working together on a lot of these projects. The project, as you know, it was awarded, it's into construction. We did have our initial construction meeting with the contractors. They've given us a schedule that'll start in the spring, and I think Bill, maybe we did have a rain event recently, and just to reiterate the necessity of that project, we did have some operational issues associated with that storm event. No spills or anything like that, but just maybe Bill might want to elaborate on that later. Reach 3A, we have a lot of consultants that we're working with on that, and sometimes I feel like it's trying to herd sheep to keep them on track. They're very, you have to pay close attention to their efforts and manage them closely in order to get them to move forward expediently. And so we're continuing our effort there on Reach 3A. Fortunately, we've been working with USDA to try to get our grant, so that's kind of been the critical path item. As soon as they give the okay, then the pressure is going to be back on us to complete this design and get it into construction. So, the pressure's building to get this thing going, you know, so, and I know we've had some outages up there recently and Ebbets Pass that have affected the community, and you know, Bill will mention some efforts that the crews are doing to do some temporary mitigations on that. So, and the last project I'm working on is the Big Tree South Zone project, which is the grant-funded project. We, you know, FEMA is waiting for us to break ground on that. They want to see the project move forward, so, you know, we've got to get something into construction this summer for sure. So, and that's all I have to report. Thank you.
I got a question.
Question?
Yeah, I have a question. In just going through basic accounting, we talk about the projects and the cost of those projects, but are we including our staff cost time in the project as an accounting piece, or is it just thrown back into the general fund?
I think you know, Jeff is a stickler about always having me and anyone else that's working on these projects to put it on our timesheet so that
Excellent.
You know, instead of it coming out of the general fund, it comes out of the R&R program, so that dollars can be accounted for.
Excellent.
You know, there's also a lot of other issues associated with that, like USDA really would not, on our experience in the West Point project, they would not reimburse staff time for CCWD. So in that respect, sometimes it's better to actually farm out some work to outside agencies for various services.
Which we can get paid back.
It's more easily reimbursable that way. So.
Okay, good point.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I feel like I'm at a concert, Charles Charles is the starting band. Okay, Flying Acres, we pulled the pin on it on December 1st, 2014, so they no longer receive water from Flying Acres. They're no longer a mutual. I went over and talked to the county and get them basically off the table, so they're all done. The interesting thing too is we shut the water off. There was a 50,000 gallon storage tank connected directly to our system. Well, they climbed up the tank on the next day and the tank was empty. Give you an idea how much leakage we had up there.
Who stole that water?
I don't know, I think they,
Mr. Gravity.
Yeah, but that to give you an idea how bad this system was. And then, I'll tell you, during construction, we had some interesting things. We had, we busted a line that was a 3/4 inch main. And one of the people up there said to me, well, you know, it took us 9 hours because we don't carry that size parts. We put all the hardware stores down, cut that thing. So, the funny thing is, somebody goes to me, hey, I didn't have any fire protection. I said, man, you never had fire protection. You're not gonna get 1,000 gallons a minute with a 3/4 inch line as far as I can tell. So, that's kind of, Flying Acres is completely out of business. Everything, you know, there's like about 20 people up there still haven't connected yet, but at some point we had to pull a pin. We were trying to keep both systems going at the same time. We were running the system off PRVs, which makes things kind of difficult when you're trying to get a 3/4 inch and a 4 inch. I mean, it's almost impossible to do. So the new people were starting to get a little irritated at the fact that we hadn't pulled the pin on the old people. So we finally gave them a drop dead date, and December 1st they got no more water. Reach 3A, like Charles says, we're working on it, we're pushing the consultants real hard. I'm gonna install about 15 isolation valves up there to try to limit the damage and also help the construction. We're gonna start on Cedar Center Pine Drive. That'll let me get Black Bear in so that they don't get hurt as bad as they're getting right now, but we'll install those ourselves. So that's gonna happen real soon. And what that'll also do is it'll speed up the construction of that project so we can make sure it's done in 1 year. Like I said, I just talked to Frank Rizzo the other day, we're up to $1.3 million in grants for the Reach 3A project. The rest is in the 3.25% 40-year loan, so it's not a bad deal on the table that they're throwing out. And we got Millwoods Arnold. That gives you an idea. We tied that in a while ago. So if anybody goes up there, sees the patch on the ground, that's exactly how far the two systems were apart. We paid $12,000 a year for the permits for each one of those. I gave Dave a copy of the memo to give you an idea of exactly how much money. You're talking about the Wilseyville, West Point. Yeah, well, I did that for the board a few years ago on the Millwoods. to give them an idea about how much money we were wasting having two systems right beside each other. And we ended up finally pulling the pin on it. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the Millwoods permit rescinded. Right now, the permit fees are around $12,000. We're gonna go for a general order, which is anything under 100,000 gallons a day, including West Point, will follow the new general order. What that is, it basically reduces the amount of testing you have to do, and it also reduces the amount of reporting. It's once a year. They just passed that permit in September. We were down the state board the day they passed it, so that's something we're in the process. The first permit we're working on right now is Millwoods and Arnold, and then we have approximately 10 systems in the district that are eligible for it. So that'll drop the permit fee from about $12,000 to $5,000 a shot. Plus the testing drops to almost nothing. I mean, it was worth the day down in Sacramento, even though I didn't want to go. Okay, the rain, like Charles said, we had a little bit of an I&I problem down in Copper. We're suspecting, we checked all the construction sites down there. As everybody knows, the economy fell off the roof, fell off the cliff, and just the way it is. But we're checking out to see, we got a bunch of development down there plugged up, so we're looking for where the water was coming from. What happened was we rebuilt the lower cross-country pump station, which pumps to the upper cross-country. Well, you got a Cadillac down there pumping to the Volkswagen. Well, the Volkswagen couldn't keep up to the Cadillac. So what we had to do is we had to use a little, we also have storage in lower cross-country because of the amount of rain, we ended up having to use the storage down below. Upper cross-country, over the years, we've had 3 sewer spills. Why the state hasn't done anything to us, I have no idea. Maybe because I'm a nice guy, I don't know. But the thing is, we need to get that under construction, and that's why that's important, because that goes right into Lake Tulloch, and that's what's starting in March. Charles and myself met with C.C. Myers and San Joaquin Electrical, so we're gonna get that thing rolling. And I got skater work good through the system, no problems. Wallace, we're gonna start construction of the building over the trickling filters. That's part of the assessment district down there that's paid for 100% by the Wallace people. And now for Terry's favorite subject, the mill pond. We're moving forward, we're trying to get that mill pond dredged. SPI has given us a preliminary agreement on putting spoils and stuff out there. We did wetland delineation, we did the CEQA checklist. We already did a preliminary checklist on it. We got we completed the habitat assessment, and they said submitted fish and wildlife, no specific species surveys were required, so we're moving forward on that one there. We also were doing a quick design on a sedimentation basin at the front of that. Yep. We also got an agreement in writing from SPI on the diversion ditch to redo that. We have a small mini excavator, we can get in and open that up again so we can take care of that, and that's where we're standing at right now there. But we're getting close to being able to submit to both Fish and Game and also to the 404, but that's a big project. SPI giving us a bunch of land to dump those spoils on is unbelievable, because that reduces our hauling time from like hours down to like minutes. So I mean, that was a big agreement. Tim Tate was a real nice guy.
Bill, I have a question on that.
Yeah.
On that mill pond, is there a way for us to possibly line that pond with a fabric liner or a clay liner and reduce the infiltration?
At the mill pond?
Yeah.
Well, mill pond's going to be a tough. It's going to be a fish and game issue. Okay, and it's a Corps of Engineering and a fish and game issue. Do you want to line it? I don't know if you want to do that. I mean, it's going to be an expensive enough project as it is right now. I believe we can get funding for it. The other thing that's happened in the meantime is the SRF people that we get the money for the wastewater just took over the water side too. So all of our contacts in Sacramento are now in charge of water and wastewater. So we'll be looking at getting some money for dredging it out. I don't think we're going to line it. The main thing we need to do is to keep the sedimentation from getting into Mill Pond, and also keep the sedimentation from getting in White Pines Lake. At some point, we need to come back and do a bathymetric study on White Pines Lake to see if it's worthwhile doing any further work down there. Maybe just stop the bleeding right now might be the way to do it. And that's kind of what the approach we're taking right now. And then it's going to cost us a few bucks to get that muck out of there, so I'm going to wait to see, get an estimate on that at some point. But SPI coming in the picture, it's right down the street. I mean, it cuts the hauling cost almost nothing. I mean, I can't believe that they gave us a bunch of sites without, they were real generous about that. But you know what it is, it just takes a while. You got to hit all the bases and stuff. They didn't find any yellow-legged frogs, no red-legged frogs. They didn't find any of that stuff up there. And then SPI has also offered to share some of their environmental work that they've done for the timber harvest plant up there too, which we're going to utilize a little bit too, or as much as we can for that. So that's kind of what's been going on in the mill pond. And obviously that's 25 acre-feet of storage for the district, so we'll see what happens. That's about it. Other than that, the district ran good during the rain. It's disappointing on Hogan to only get 5,000 acre-feet of storage out of that. I mean, it was rained like hell, but you guys ever want to check, we all watch the CDEC website all the time, and that, you go in there, and I tell you, it was brutal. There was nothing coming in. It's just, everything is just too dry, and that's the way it is. But Bear Creek is back running right now, so we're back to diverting the Bear Creek. We're off of the Milk River, okay? And then the other system that we're on is like I said, we put the boards back in up at the mill ponds, but that's very little storage because the whole place is actually full of muck. And there's really nothing. I walked through there this summer, there's no water now. That's about it for what's going on.
Whew.
That's all,
Okay,
folks.
thank you.
Oh, the other thing too, on the water saving, you know, by the 15,000.
I didn't say anything,
You
Bill.
know, the 15,000 linear feet of pipe we replaced in West Point, you heard, we actually saved 160 acre feet, estimated 160 acre feet a year in water. That's how much leakage we had down there. 'Cause we took the downtown area and stuff like that, so that was a significant amount of water. That was a lot.
160 acre feet?
Acre feet, yeah, you should read the final DWR report I wrote.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you get that to me?
Yeah, I can.
Or through Dave?
Yeah, I'll send it through Dave. It was kind of a shocking result when we saw that. And you notice that's causing problems because we're not getting the flushing action in the system anymore because the water's, well, it's causing problems.
Yeah.
It's causing water quality
Sure
problems.
will.
The system, if it was leaking, would actually be self-flushing. And since we're not allowed in the stage 3 to flush the water line, it was actually purging itself because all the water was leaking. I mean, that's actually, as crazy it is, that's actually what happened. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll get you I'll get Dave the final report, you can take a look at it. It was, and also, the best thing about the DWR is there was a gap on the USDA and the Prop 84 money. USDA came in and backfilled because of the water savings. And that's what you'll get a copy of, is they actually show you that they actually filled in the gap on that. It's pretty neat. But yeah, you gotta keep working on these grant guys, but the people we deal with for the wastewater grants are now in charge of the water grants.
Oh.
That makes a good thing. Up in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago at their request, I made a speech on this nationwide webinar explaining how small communities get grants and stuff like that. It was entertaining, I guess. I don't know, they liked it. Anyway, I have to do a video.
So does your planned retirement have to go through board approval?
I'm willing to hire me. I don't know what I'm gonna
To
do.
do webinars,
Huh?
yeah, to do webinars, yeah.
Dave's from Texas, he's a cowboy fan. Kind of irritates me ever since.
Yeah, we're changing the official uniform for Bill to a Cowboys hat as of next meeting.
Not a,
They're wearing Robo's jersey with Jimmy's rash. I don't know why.
Okay. Okay, we're through with reports, and I just have one more thing to bring up at the end of reports, and, you know, from the board, I just would like to say, welcome, Mr. Egerton. I just, you know, it's been a real pleasure to have you at our first board meeting,
Well, thank you, and I guess it's really a pleasure to work with you all and Madam President. I mean, I remember when I started EID, I think I first met you with Mountain Counties and the involvement there, and so it's great to be. It is a very small group of people that do this, and sometimes you wish that weren't the case, but most of the time that's really good because the people are really high quality people in the business.
Okay, board reports.
Well, boy, the time on this. I wanted to just introduce myself or spend some time to introduce myself. I don't know if it's best to do it now or try to sneak it into maybe the next board meeting. What's that?
Do it in the next one.
I'll go ahead and do that next time, but the bottom line is we're going to have an outreach event. We planned it, working with Dave and Joel and others. We're also going to work a little bit more on that this afternoon, or I will with Joel. But we're going to have our first outreach event up in West Point, slated for the 21st of January at the elementary school there from 6 to approximately 8 p.m. It's an opportunity to do some public outreach and allow the community, as Mr. Day was here earlier, to really voice their concern because Division 1 or Division 2 or District 2, I'd really like to get it settled which of those two terms we're going to use. But anyway, it's certainly the largest geographic area within the county and probably involves the most number of disadvantaged communities. And as a result, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because as you've heard today, the tremendous amount of free money that we get from our disadvantaged communities, or because they're disadvantaged, but on the other hand, it creates so many management challenges, especially economic. And believe me, in this election campaign, that was the #1 by far issue that I heard, is just the impacts, the economic impacts to those fixed income folks up in that area. So I made a real commitment to them that in serving, their best needs is going to be my commitment to looking at other programs. For instance, the one that we have here on Resolution 2009-69 that looks at the wastewater rate assistance policy. I'd also like to see a water rate assistance program that we can bring to them at some point in the future. I know this is going to take a lot of time, but there's many folks. I mean, to get phone calls from grown men that are crying in tears about worrying how they're going to make their next month's payments between water, sewer, food, and other issues, it just, boy, it really got to my heartstrings. And so those are the people that again, I'll be representing in this capacity. I feel very honored to receive their confidence, and I look forward to representing their best interests. At the same time, you're going to continually have me question decisions that we make as far as hiring folks. I really want to see us move forward with the idea of preferential hiring of folks that have companies within local businesses. I think that's really important, and I know that with some of our federal grants, it requires or eliminates that opportunity, but you're going to hear a lot of me saying, what have we done to outreach to those local businesses? Because again, it's just, I feel we really need to keep that money local as much as we can. So, other things too is like, I noticed a tunnel tap committee. There's a lot of things that I have no idea of what that is or what that committee is about. And so I just want to say real quickly that this is the first time I've ever been elected into a public office. The mistakes that I am going to make are going to be significant. But remember, they're going to be mistakes. Okay, and so I'd appreciate your understanding and patience. I've already learned a lot from Director Davidson on some of the protocols and everything, and especially being Vice President, I think there's a lot of, my learning curve has to be exponential here at first. So that the idea of this the local hiring goes back to our Resolution 2000-47 that we already have on the books. So let's see if we need to tweak that in any way that we can. Other than that, again, I appreciate your understanding and also the understanding of our other fellow board members in some of the mistakes, honest mistakes that Cherry's going to make throughout time. Thank you.
Well, for the sake of time, I'll just kind of review where I've been over the since the 5th when I took office. On December 9th, I was here for the advisory committee teleconference that we put together for UMRA. And also then I went to the Board of Supervisors. I was at UWPA in the evening. On December 10th, I went to Vern Pyle's retirement dinner in Murphy's. And December 11th, the Planning Commission. December 13th, Blue Lake Springs Mutual. December 15th, LAFCO. December 16th, Board of Supervisors. That was very interesting, what we had there. And last night at Angel City Council, I'll be at UPUD tonight. And I'll leave a copy of this for Mona so she can distribute it out, my summary reports from each one of those meetings. So, and if you'd like to have one, Dave, so you can see what it is. This is, of course, a number of us are first time out, and I also have never been elected to a board, but responsibilities are being what they are. I'm sure, like Terry said, we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to learn from those things. And to the staff, you're going to make mistakes too, and I don't want you to be afraid to do that. What I want you to be aware of is you need to be afraid not to try. Try new things. Look outside the box. Try to find some different ways to do things. And don't think that the status quo is going to be normal. I would prefer it to be, we challenge ourselves every day. to do what we can do. And I always have a statement that I've lived by through my entire career, and that is do the best you can do, because when it's over, you'll have no regrets. So we'll do the best we can do, and hopefully everybody will understand and try to do the same thing. And I appreciate your time.
Well, recently, I went to the Aqua conference, attended different seminars, one in regards to the rate preferences and challenges in regards to that, which I found pretty interesting. Of course, I went through the ethics training, and then also former Director Dean gave a presentation on the forest management practices, much of what we talked about today. We had a representative from Sierra Pacific there talking about the different things that they're doing in regard to the rim fire, and I found it to be really interesting, particularly the erosion control measures that they're being able to take on private property that aren't being taken on federal property. It's kind of the same thing that we discussed here today, but you know, just really brings into focus that to the extent we have the opportunity to try to develop some of these policies federally, I think we really need to take that step, because I mean, this entire region is going to be affected by these catastrophic fires, and even to the extent that we learn how to manage them after they burn, that's an important, that might be the first step that we need to take, sadly. But so it was very informative, and that's it. I look forward to working with all of you. I think it was a good board meeting, or has been so far, a little long. But that's what we get paid the big bucks for.
I also attended the Aqua conference and did listen to Director Dean's presentation. Mr. Egerton also gave a very nice presentation there. A lot of very, I mean, across the board, just many different, all day long, different 2-hour conferences with a lot of good information. I've also accepted a position on Mountain County's board, and will be starting that in January. I attended the LAFCO meeting with Dennis the other night, and I'm going to be signing up for some CSDA, let's see, the
Special District.
California Special District Association offers training, and there's a four-session module on governance that I have been very interested in taking. They usually offer them at different places, and then once you get a diploma in governance on that. They've usually offer them in several different areas around the state, and you can get one at a time. They're having a conference coming up in January where all four of the governance modules are offered at the same time, and so to get them out of the way at one time, I've signed up for that. And I do have a conflict, just to let everybody know, especially you, Mona, that conference will be going on during our January 28th meeting, so I most likely will miss that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and Bertha's back, and one of the things that I think is very interesting is the fact that I mentioned that I went on hiatus for about 5 years, and so I chose to come back, and thank goodness all the ratepayers or voters put me back into CCWD. But one of the things that happens when you're away is that, or when you're working with something like CCWD, you get engrossed in the CCWD culture. Because I was newly elected, and here I come, and all I know is CCWD. Now I've been away for 5 years, and it's going to be very interesting to see how my thinking will go, because I'm looking at it with new eyes.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I was just fascinated by that, and the questioning and different ways of thinking, or what decisions I will make, and so I'm very pleased, I'm very excited to be back, thrilled, and love remember all the staff, and remember their names, and so, and...
Madam Chairman, just one thing I think is a very important thing. I believe somebody turned 64 today, rumor has it. Getting to be a real old man.
No.
Isn't there a time limit how long the mental and physical capacity?
I put a false date on the Facebook page, just leave it at that.
Happy birthday, old man.
Wise man.
Oh, okay. Future agenda items, the only thing I remember is the fact that we will, well, it's not agendized, but we will take the board compensation to the finance committee. Anything else that,
Yeah, I'd like to see this, I don't know what you call this policy manual, I guess, put into an ad hoc committee to get it down to something that is functional and that we can work with. I come from an ISO 9000 background, and if you want to research what that is, this doesn't even have any relationship to what I would call policies. And I know that when you have a management position like Dave, this can be very cumbersome. This can actually be a disadvantage to deal with this thing. So that's a request that I would like to see done almost immediately, is get involved and clean this up.
Yes, we spoke about that briefly, Director Mills, and I think that that's definitely an area that we could do a lot to improve it. This is I guess the nice part of that is there are distinct sections of the policy document, so of the board policies. So just like with the policy we talked about today with expenditure reimbursement and as it relates to the board, that's one area that we can dive right into and start to update. The way I see it is, I'd like for us to think about the architecture for the entire update, yes. And then let's take off the pieces that we can make progress on, and set a realistic time frame for that. I mean, having been through this before at another agency, I know this is you can make this your entire focus for an entire year if you wanted to for one staff person, and I realize we don't want to. So I'd like for us to be thoughtful. We'll put some thought into that and come back with some ideas on how we might set out to do that, and how we would do that through the board, what committee, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Scott, one more time.
Oh, and I also wanted to express my great interest in working with our new board members, and I look forward to a good relationship going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have one more thing. The three of us coming on, we saw our agenda packet, but we'd like to get, I think we've talked about getting an update on the financial condition, or, just what's out there as far as CCWD is concerned. How much money do we owe? Who do we owe it to? That kind of thing.
An onboarding process.
An onboarding, yes, right.
Got it. Well, and there are a couple ideas on that. One, we could use the second meeting in January, which we've slated as a workshop, because that's what I anticipated. We probably wanted to have a space to do something just like that. We also have the mid-year budget report update coming in February. But maybe the best thing would just be to use that second meeting in January is to do that orientation. We could generally speak to the assets, the water supply reliability issues, the water rights, the finances, those kind of things. That certainly is something we could do. I'll continue to have that conversation with you, Madam Chair, if you'd like, and we can determine that recommended agenda.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Madam President, I'd also, as far as the committees and whatnot, I'd like to offer a volunteer for any of these committees or JPAs in the McCollum system, just based upon my past interest in living there and whatnot. So I'll give a list of not only the committees and JPAs or something, but also whether, the first or second alternate, or, whatever I see, and then as you see fit.
I'd appreciate that, because I know we're going to have to go over some of these, and
we're gonna give that to Mona.
Yeah,
So we said
okay.
earlier, yeah. Yeah, so we'll submit them to you too.
Oh, okay, that's, all right. Next board meetings, Wednesday, January 14th, the regular board meeting, And then Wednesday, January the 28th, this is, well, it's basically that, a board workshop.
Yes, the 28th is, that's the thought. Try to take care of the business the first meeting and then have that space to have that informational type discussion.
Great. Item 13, closed session. 13A, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code 54956.9A, La Contenta Investors LTD versus CCWD, Calaveras County Superior Court, number 11, CV 37713. 13B, conference with legal counsel, threatened litigation, Government Code 54956.9B3C, 3 cases. And I adjourn the meeting for closed session.
We asked for public comment on the closed session.
Oh. Any public comment on closed session?
Not on closed session, but
That's,
good work today.
It's refreshing, isn't it?
Merry Christmas, Marty.
Do I take a break before?
Yeah, we can take a break.
Take a 5-minute break.
5 minutes.
5-minute break?
Oh, I ate it. Oh, shit.